Hi folks, I'm Ignatiy Vishnevetsky.
I'm Alex Dowd.
We are around the corner from the AV Club office at Farmhouse Tavern.
Welcome to Film Club. Pan has sort of been conceived as this origin story of Peter Pan, as if that's something that we need. It sort of takes that undefined period in that character's history and weaves this sort of labored origin story out of it. You know, him sort of coming back to Neverland to fulfill his destiny.
This is the latest in a cycle that seems to be ongoing of these retellings of well-known fairy tales, of classics of children's literature, and Maleficent, you know, the Kenneth Branagh Cinderella. And this is the loosest of them, the kind of the most radical reworking, you could say, but at the same time, there's nothing radical about it, because what it reworks Peter Pan into is this very generic, chosen one kind of narrative.
Origin story.
You've got elements borrowed from Moulin Rouge here. There's some X-Men First Class over there. There's a bit of Stargate somewhere in there, maybe a little 1941. There's a lot of Adventures of Baron Munchausen.
I think First Class is an appropriate comparison because this sort of plays like Lost Boys, the First Class, you know?
But I think First Class at least sets up these essential conflicts and themes that we associate with the X-Men. This has nothing to do with Peter Pan. The strangest thing in the movie is Garrett Hedlund's performance.
Hedlund plays the young
He's playing
Hook.
the young Captain Hook as basically a Harrison Ford impression.
Yeah, he's Han Solo. If there's anything that I like about Pan,
Because I remember when this movie ended, you gave me a look like...
I think I said ugh. I think I audibly just said ugh. I don't think much about it works at all. And I'm curious, who is this movie for? It's
Joe Wright, maybe. I think it's for Joe Wright.
It's not for kids, really.
There are all these irreverent moments, and Blackbeard is he's a very silly character, and they sort of play up the silliness of him. But at the same time, there's a part of this film that's very over-serious. And that's kind of the way it handles this.
Discussions of death and
Yeah.
mortality. I mean, this is a film where a kid walks the plank and dies.
Now, you're making this movie sound really interesting, and...
I'm sorry, I apologize if I'm doing that.
No, because that's supposed to be I'm the one who likes it more. That's supposed to be my job in this conversation.
It's hard not to do that just describing it because so much is happening in this film. I think it's also important that you indicate just how labored so much of it is.
It's so fun to talk about, though.
But it's not fun to watch.
I know there are stretches that are a lot of fun to watch. You have these very fanciful children's book scenes in space where he's grabbing planets. You know, they're like the size and mass of grapefruit. And then they're arriving on this floating island. I think that's a really fun stretch. And there are fun stretches throughout.
The reason that this got made at all is its connection to Peter Pan.
Yeah.
And the reason that it can't be the idiosyncratic film that it so desperately wants to be is that it also has to sort of double as really labored origin story. It can't be both those things.
Now, one movie that I think is doing a lot of, I think also very outrageous things with style, but it's very much integrated into what it's trying to do, is The Walk. It's Robert Zemeckis' new movie, which is basically telling the same story as Man on Wire, the popular documentary. Right, it's Philippe Petit, the sort of eccentric, megalomaniacal Frenchman who decides to walk on a wire between the World Trade Center while it's kind of in its last months of construction. And of almost a heist-like build-up to this, what is essentially an art performance.
Sure. And all that stuff for me works like gangbusters. You know, The Walk is sort of two films. The first half is sort of this biographical information about Petit, another origin story.
Yeah.
But sort of looking at his childhood, looking at him learning to become a wire walker. The whole thing is narrated. He sort of breaks the fourth wall. He's standing on the Statue of Liberty with the two towers behind
Talking
him.
right to the camera in a very broad French accent.
Yeah, very exaggerated French accent.
Played by, you know, Joseph Gordon-Levitt in a wig that is never really convincing. This is shot in 3D. Zemeckis makes really smart use of the format, especially in terms of depth.
This is the rare film, I'll say, that if you can see this in 3D, you absolutely should.
Yeah, because he's planning every single shot around it. And as much as I was taken with the big climax when he finally walks on the wire between the towers, my favorite sequence in the movie is when he comes up to the roof for the first time. You get this great shot of him coming out on the roof and then walking out sort of onto the ledge.
Well, I'll say it's nice that it's one moment where he shuts the fuck up for 5 minutes. Because he just never stops talking throughout this film.
I mean, everything is very broad and cartoonish, right? You get this flashback to Paris is in black and white.
Yeah.
You have these cartoonish Frenchmen that are just short of like having a beret and like walking in with baguettes everywhere. I mean, all of his films have sort of used period pop culture in a very, very broad way. And so here it's very much it's the pop cultural view of the 1970s. But then he's still able to pull off these moments of really of grace. Like him coming up to the roof and the camera coming down, or the entire sequence where he's actually walking on the wire back and forth.
It's a spectacular sequence.
Yeah, because so much of the movie is so broad, that makes those moments stick even more.